I would build a great wall, and nobody builds walls better than me, believe me, and I'll build them very inexpensively. I will build a great, great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall. And the wall is going to be a great wall. We're not going to have a wall like they have now, which is either non-existent or a joke. We will finish the wall, which has now 212 miles built and beautiful. Just leave us alone. Build your wall. Just leave us alone.
It was the cornerstone of President Trump's 2016 campaign and that first term in the White House, a big border wall to enforce security at our southern border. The vice president asked about efforts to build this wall now during his trip to Eagle Pass, Texas this week.
I think the president's hope is that by the end of the term, we build the entire border wall. And of course, that's the physical structure of the border wall itself. But we even heard today, there are so many good technological tools. We're using artificial intelligence to make us better at the job of border enforcement. But we've got to make sure that technology is deployed across the entire American southern border.
Senior advisor of U.S. Customs and Border Protection under that first administration, Ron Vitiello, here with me once again. Ron, good to see you. That wall was extremely controversial during the first administration. Claims of it being xenophobic, racist, that it was fear-mongering. Is it less so today?
Well, it was none of those things. What the wall does is it protects the border. It protects the agents that have to work on the border, and it slows people down. It provides an anchor for them to do their job in a more safe way. It's an anchor for technology and sometimes lighting and the things that you need, attributes that make it more effective. And it helps control the border in a way that you cannot do without a physical barrier.
In terms of the latest numbers by U.S. Customs and Border Protection, 8,300 crossings at the southern border last month. That's compared to the tens of thousands seen. And this is the lowest number perhaps ever in terms of modern day immigration flow, illegal immigration. Obviously, there are a lot of people who voted for President Trump who expected a wall. We know there were hangups. We know the Biden administration had money that was earmarked from the previous administration that they somehow skated through, and the wall was never completed. Do you see or foresee any issues with a wall being built this time around?
Well, there's wall being constructed now with the funds from Trump 1 in the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas and in parts of New Mexico. And so all of the resources that are available are being put into place. Now it's time for Congress to then backstop what's being done by policy to allow us to build more physical barrier along the southwest border where it makes sense. That physical barrier will be accompanied by smart technology that allows agents to be queued when activity is there. It'll have access roads and it'll have lateral access along the border because they have to be able to move quickly and safely along that part of the border. And so I don't see any reason for it not to be accelerated and increased because Congress is going to come in and backstop what the president has done via policy. And I'll tell you why that, in the Biden administration and other administrations didn't like wall, because it's sustainable. It's the one piece of policy and implementation that they can't take down. They tried, they left a lot of pieces of wall in the desert to rust, but now we're able to put that back into play and protect America in a way that wasn't possible in the last 4 years.
And a lot of Americans, again, just speaking to them, believe you can't have a country without borders. And in our case, a wall would create a real border versus somebody just being able to walk over. NewsNation's Ali Bradley was asking the vice president about whether or not we will go into Mexico to defend our country against cartels. Let's listen to that.
Since the designation of the cartels as terrorists, does that give the United States the green light to go into Mexico and to strike them there?
What designating cartel organizations allows us to do is deploy the full resources of the United States military to engage in serious border enforcement. Of course, the president is going to make the determination about how we deploy those forces. But our hope is that Mexico takes this job seriously.
Obviously, with those low numbers we're seeing, there has been a deterrent to those crossing into the country illegally with more of a show of force down at the southern border. But do you foresee anything unprecedented happening to defend the southern border with this new administration?
Well, it's already unprecedented. Just Mexico alone, 10,000 of their own National Guard troops on their northern border, our southern border, keeping the cartels out of sight and out of reach of the border. 10,000 of our own heroes in the U.S. government, the Department of Defense, unprecedented support from the Department of Justice with regard to people who are still coming across the border being prosecuted for illegal entry. The actual terrorism designation of the cartels allows the full force of the U.S. government. And Mexico is cooperating in ways that I have not seen in my entire career, 30 plus years in the government. So yeah, the unforeseen or unprecedented, the level of activity at the southwest border is lower than it's ever been. And anybody that tries is paying a big price. And people are not staying in custody for days and days and days before they're removed home. Unprecedented cooperation in the hemisphere to take their people back. And so we just have to continue doing that. It has to be sustained with the resources from Congress and changes in the law, as well as, to backstop what the president was able to do under policy.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.